Ole Werner is here. Ole Werner is here. Feel the groove ignite. Step into the rhythm, keep it tight all night. Spice in the mix, nothing to fear. Hands up high, Ole Werner is here.
Well, welcome back to Bulls and Reds, where Ben and Christian from It's Not Easy Being Green, two diehard SV Werder fans from the Great White North, continue with their mission to MUBO, well, to make us believe in Ole. The gods of AI have given us reasons to be excited about Ole Werner's appointment. However, some of the reasons given may be too far-fetched. Ability to develop young players. Leipzig is a club
on the list?
Indeed it is. But there are also some positives. Well, kinda.
Yeah, that was pretty much my thought. Why I thought he wasn't such a bad fit for Leipzig.
Okay. What's that thing about being a surf instructor?
And during that time, he gave an interview where he's like, you know what? If I want to, I might go and I want to be a surf instructor.
I guess we have to stick around to find out more. Let's do this. Next one is, here we go. Oh, this is going to be good. Ability to develop young players. Leipzig is a club
on the list?
Yeah, of course. Let me read this to you. It's amazing.
It's been reading
Leipzig is a club that heavily relies on developing young talent. Werner has consistently shown his skill in working with and integrating young players into his teams, both at Holstein Kiel and Werder Bremen. This is a crucial aspect for Leipzig's long-term strategy and will be a significant benefit. Can I start with you, Ben? Because I think you reacted to it immediately. And we touched on that before. Let off steam, it's fine.
No, I'm just checking here now. I asked Google how many people on average use Chat GPT daily. I just want to know how stupid our world is becoming.
I'm going to put a tariff on that.
I honestly have no idea where to go with this. At the end of our season, we had the second oldest fielded squad. What? I must have missed something. I'm sorry.
You're right. Don't know where to go with it because it's bullshit.
20, I believe, again, because the number rarely changed, and I watched it near the end of the season. 28.3 years old was the average age of a fielded player for Werder Bremen. We used young players, some of the least in the entire league. There was repeated instances where a player would have a bad game. If they were under the age of 24, 25, they wouldn't see the field again. A great example of this, Malatini, an aspiring right back, center back that we purchased for $2 million, completely crapped the bed against Bielefeld in the DFB Pokal, and we lost the game and we tumbled out of that. He didn't see the field again for the rest of the season, like not even as a substitute. And so you've got to ask yourself, what kind of an environment is that for youth development? And when we talk about players like Voltemad getting inspired when they go on loan somewhere else, when we talk about players like Dinci trying to find a move because they didn't have trust at the club, these aren't outliers. These are big blazing comets rolling through the sky that says this guy does not give young players the confidence they need to succeed. And his lineups, I think, on a regular proved it. And because you'd have players that were well established at the club that would have absolute stinker games, but they would still get time on the field. There were players that were offered a lot of time. Marvin Douche, is a great example of this. And so again, this is of course opinion, and you can go to where contrarian ideas die on Reddit and find some completely different ones about how brilliant he was at developing.
Honestly, I think that's how Chat picked this up. Chat GPT picked it up.
Well,
they'll scamming through all those fucking combos.
They'll point to players like Romano Schmid, who's not young anymore. But okay, that would be. We'll give you that one. Jens Steyer, again, not a young player, but they'll point to that one. Sene Leinen, 6 months on the bench before he had a chance to hit the field. Same with Jens Steyer. Didn't play him for 6 months before he got a chance to what are we talking about here? Like,
yeah, but finally, particularly those two players, well, like took off in a really steep way. So maybe he thinks players have to ride some like some time, like getting a little bit older, watching the game from the bench, and then like, okay, come on now, it's your time, let's go.
So
just
you're
kidding.
right. They absolutely did take off. And Jens Staya did in his last season, played an absolute blinder of a season. Right now, the season before, half of it, I believe, he was being played as a 6. Right. So why? Like if he when he was played as an 8 and used as an offensive 8, which, by the way, when you talk to the folks from Copenhagen, when we originally transferred him, they were like, this guy is a great offensive midfielder. Like, he's an 8 still, but he loves to get forward. He loves to play in the box. And we just never saw that for 2 seasons until he finally was allowed to do it. So why the wait? We can compliment the fact that it happened. We can also ask the question why it took 2.5 seasons to do it.
Yeah. And I'd also like to just throw this name out there as another example of his brilliant work with youth, Skelly Alvaro. 5 million euros. 5 million euros, and please feel free to check and see how much playing time he got this year. He's all but disappeared off he's on the back of a milk carton. And I actually do not doubt for a second that he's probably going to get some time under our new coach.
Yeah, so 5 million for a youth talent for Leipzig would be like you guys paying 50 million and not playing and not playing the player. And not only that, we took him on loan for 6 months. We took him on loan for 6 months and then chose to close the deal. So the coaching staff saw what he could do, and then nothing. And now I'm pretty sure, again, if Ole had stayed on, we were pretty sure that he was going to get shipped out for like 2 million or something.
Yeah. I think it was a game against Bayern, which, I mean, traditionally, with exception of the last season, we lose, and we lose terribly every fucking time. He had a bad game, as 99% of this fucking league does against Bayern, and then he just never saw. I don't think he was on the bench until like the last game, maybe.
Well, he
just disappeared off the face of the earth.
He had that game and one game after because of injuries, but then as soon as players were available again, he disappeared. He wasn't even in part of the squad. Yeah.
And to be honest, a lot of the time our youth players only got time due to the fact that there were injuries or cards. So it was like there was nobody else that he could play. So that's how Njinma got time. Because otherwise, Njinma never would have seen the pitch. Njinma wanted to leave during the transfer window. I think there was an offer from Roma for about 10 million. Because he wasn't playing.
Well, but we could tell similar stories because Adama Lukman, who was a pillar, how to say it in English? I think it's a cornerstone. I think it's a cornerstone in that Atalanta squad when they won the Europa League, and Lukman was a former RB Leipzig player, and it did not work out. He had one chance, and then he bottled it, and then he was thrown on the bench and never seen again. And we had Sörloth on the squad, that guy that scored 4 times against it was a Barcelona or was it Real Madrid, I don't remember, but he scored four goals in one match in the Spanish league. And and the other guy, it's Elif Elmas. That was like, I think this is our mirror to your what was his name, Alvaro, because he came in from Napoli, I think, for 25 million. And he has like 9 matches with like 150 playing minutes. And then half season later, he was back on loan to Torino, and then suddenly started playing again in the starting 11, and then scoring goals again. And he was like, okay, come on, what happened? What's just going on? Why are players not working in Team A, but working perfectly in Team B? I do not get it. Maybe it's got something to do with the coach, but maybe sometimes just with the circumstances. I don't know. I think this is just beyond my understanding. It's going to be column A and column B.
In our situation, we had a couple of top prospects that literally, without saying it out loud, pointed and said we weren't given the confidence here. We were given it somewhere else, and that's why it's working right now. what else are you going to point at that point in time?
But Ole Werner is likely to face a team where half of the players, at least half, or even more of the players, are 21 and younger or 22 and younger. So that defeats, the rule of if you're 24 or 25, you're below that age, you're just going to miss the next game when you played poorly. So he has to change the team regularly. So that's going to be
You'd
interesting
like to think
to
that,
see.
Wouldn't you?
But the thing, what we missed last year as well, we missed a team which acts like unity. So it seemed like every other week the players were thrown together in a new combination, never played like that before. So it always felt like at the beginning of the season when a team starts out and they start finding themselves. So that was really awkward. And we kind of long for a team which has a certain stability and which performs well and we can identify with, and we can see a clear philosophy and identity. And that's what we're hoping for. But however, I must admit, I'm struggling to see that with the help of Ole Werner. I'm not sure if it is getting better or worse talking to you, looking at AI.
The stability, you're bang on that. You're going to get that. You're going to get the stability. Yeah. You're going to get a stable environment. One thing we can say, with the exception of a couple of months, there were there obviously was something internal going on, but it never actually came out. But the club has been very close knit. The team very close knit. Lot of unity within the team. So those are things, again, compliments to him that you were saying you were looking for. I think you might get some of those things.
Okay, that makes us a little bit more hopeful.
Yeah, and understand too that our front office is a mess. It really is. It's a pain in the ass. Nobody really knows what they're doing, with the exception of Jans. Thank you, by the way. But it's a bit of a mess. So while we can fault some of the decisions that are made on the pitch, there's a lot of other fault we can throw around with the rest of that front office.
Okay. Well, we will see how it works out. 2 more points, then we come to the end of this little experiment and see how much more excited we are or not. Next one here, AI suggests leadership and work ethic. Reports describe Werner as a calm motivator who builds trust and fosters a clear work ethic. He's known for helping players grow through clear communication and a plan rather than solely through pressure. This type of leadership can be vital for guiding a high-level team and getting the best out of individual players. Does that make any sense to you guys? Ben, maybe.
Help me understand how providing a clear idea and expectations on a player is motivating without pressure. It sounds to me like that is one thing that Ole Werner was known for. So again, points for AI for discovering the low-hanging fruit. That yes, it's well reported that Ole Werner is clear in his communication, even in his exit from the club. As you saw, Richard, it was clear. Christian. Yeah, it wasn't a siren. You only drink when there's sirens or neighbors fighting, but not when there's car horns.
Damn. Downtown Toronto. So he is really good at articulating what he desires from the players, and all indications suggest he's an incredibly detailed study on opposition tactics. Okay. So it sounds to me like, and Ole Werner, from the picture that it was drawn for us, is not a social guy. He has repeatedly said he does not want close relationships with the players. He wants a professional relationship with the players where he walks in, informs you of your job, how you're going to do it, and it's clear. And if you're not playing on the team, it's clear. And if you are, it's clear. Like there's those types of things. We can look at that and say, man, that's phenomenal. And on the other hand of it, there is missing the soft touch, if you will, without being all pervy. But there's some soft skills missing there as well that can also work against you for players that do need a little bit more than just, they need someone to build that confidence in them through an emotional vein, as opposed to just a tactical or here's your instructions, now get out and do it.
That's an interesting point. That's interesting because maybe not maybe. I think this is clear and obvious that this is something to do with building up young players. Because if you're just not the good communicator and just like making players feel confident in their personal skills, then you won't get out the best performance out of your young players. And you can talk to players like 24 and older. Like, come on, you have to do this and you have to do that, and you know how to work because you're like pro for like 5 years now. And if there's a players like in the very first male team or top flight male team, like the young guns from France and Belgium, like 19, 20 years old, you cannot handle them like that. That won't work out. That's interesting. Thank you.
Well, there was a consultant that was hired 2 years ago to work with the players on some of those soft skills. So, and I've always granted that every single person that walks this earth is imbalanced. It's one of the reasons why community is necessary, right? Why friendships are necessary, is to balance out the individual. And so Ole Werner has got a clear plan and a clear idea and communicates it clearly. The question is, does he have the support staff around him that can come in and provide the soft skills that some of those other players and younger players particularly are going to need? At Werder, I don't believe that happened. Perhaps at Leipzig, that is a possibility.
I would like to think that Leipzig has those capabilities, but he's also bringing 2 assistant coaches, isn't he, as well? So that is a team which is used to one another, and maybe one of them does have those skills as well. But Richard, before I come back to Christian, do you think that Marco Rose actually had these soft skills with the vast majority of the players? Not everyone.
Well, yeah, I do. Maybe a little bit too much.
Okay.
I think it was maybe some kind of this friendly guy, too much this friendly guy. He was like, okay, I'm the motivator and I believe in you and you have to believe in yourself and so on, and there's a whole shit. But on the other hand side, he just had a lack of a plan, or at least a lack of a plan B, or maybe like that.
That's the impression we had. Christian, do you actually agree with Ben, or any other thoughts from your side?
No, and this is actually why I thought I agree with Ben. I don't have any other thoughts. I do think this is why there's potential for Ole to be a better fit. Is you guys do have the finances. You've got a better setup. It's more of a business. And you will have the tools to see what he needs. Where he lacks, you guys will be able to fill in with other individuals. We don't have that. We're like a mom and pop shop, where it's kind of, shucks, gee willikers, we're all family here and we'll do what we can. And he needs more than that, which is why he's left. It's not just the players. It is all those small little bits and pieces. And that's for that. Yeah, that was pretty much my thought, why I thought he wasn't such a bad fit for Leipzig.
Okay, thank you. Much appreciated. Let's get on to the last point, last chance to convince us that, we'll be super excited. Long-term perspective. Wow. While perhaps not initially seen as a long-term solution for a top club, Werner has demonstrated an ability to work successfully over extended periods at his previous clubs. Somebody's shaking his head. Leipzig is looking for stability and continued team development, and Werner's track record suggests he can provide just that. Ben, you are shaking your head, so please start.
Long-term vision would require what? It would require developing, building younger players to step into the shoes on the field. And so I don't even know what kind of animal this AI bot is trying to pull out its ass, because it doesn't make a lot of sense. If you started to look at the squad type that Werner was using on a week in and week out basis, there was a small group that he pulled from, and then there were auxiliary players that he used on occasion. But there was no concerted effort to necessarily fill the shoes of players that might get sold, that, can we develop some depth? He asked for depth, from the front office. Buy me some depth. Buy me some depth. But the players that were brought in were never utilized. So the question, of course, is, from the Redditors out there, is that, well, the players that were brought in weren't good enough. And from our perspective, it's that they weren't actually utilized or developed in order to be good enough. So we never saw whatever this long-term vision is. If Leonardo Bittencourt is making your starting 11 in the last 15 matches of a season, what's the long-term goal there? If Marvin Douche is starting every game, and a high prospect player who's worked his way back from injury, we'll grant you that, but KK Top can't see minutes on the field. We had, his names are slipping me. Who's that Austrian winger that came to us in the offseason? I can't remember his name.
Oh,
right.
What's that?
Yeah, you got a player, Gruel. You got a player like him who was lighting it up near the end of the first half and then just didn't get selected. Yeah. So again, I corroborate or connect long-term vision with the ability to move, like to build out the depth of your squad and to move players in and out of that system fluidly. So that, you've got a dependable, larger group of players so that if people get sold, if new ones come in, integration is another thing for long-term vision. 6 months to integrate a player like Jens Stehe, 6 months to integrate Sene Linen. What are we talking about here? How is that's not long-term. I mean, you could say, well, it's a slow integration. Oh, okay, I guess. But the integration never really happened. Yeah.
You know what I will piggyback off of, and I'm going to try and put a positive spin, even though I don't necessarily believe myself.
Oh, sorry, right, positive. Shit. Sorry.
Yeah. So, so I will say this once again. There was something in particular that was said, and it was, he always has the same goal, which is to do better every year, and I think he will do whatever he needs to within certain parameters to make sure that happens. So once again, pointing back to the original question or original statements, he did technically do better year after year after year, So there is that possibility. If he has what is needed, he could push you guys to the top. We don't actually know because he did a lot with very little, on our end. So I
better. Yeah. The counter, right? So better and better every single year with a smaller and smaller group of core players that he was working with. So again, like to the long-term vision of the club, I also feel that might be a front office and coach thing. So again, if he's given the players that he believes could, build out that depth. Again, there was some conflict, like him wanting depth and the front office being like, we've given you, start using them, and he's not. So Maybe it's as simple as that. Maybe if he gets provided the players that he believes he needs, this could miraculously come true.
Yeah, he could fulfill what he expects to be, and the Leipzig front office believe to be a successful season. And I can kind of see that because if we think about our front office, who's claimed in the past that the only way forward is by developing youth. And that should be our sole focus for an extended period of time until eventually, yada, 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 we're making Europe and all that sort of jazz. Whereas Ole wanted to make Europe immediately. And he wanted the tools to make Europe immediately. Which is why he left, which is why we're okay with him leaving. We were not able to provide him with those tools. You guys are. Yes, you're still going to be developing youth, but you can also afford all those players around the youth. So his concept of youth development may actually fit your program more than it fits ours because it's become the sole focus for us versus for you guys it's kind of like a bonus part.
Well, not only that, the starting level of a Leipzig youth prospect and the starting level of a Werder youth prospect are completely different.
Two different things.
The skill level that you're bringing in as a youth prospect is liable to be a player that would maybe be like on our starting 11. Right. And so who knows, maybe that would be enough of an elevation that the skill is there that he can develop that because it's not a diamond in the rough. It's somewhat developed already.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying, guys.
That makes me a bit more hopeful, and I can see it on Richard's face. He's probably thinking along the same lines. it is valid that we have young players who may be of a higher quality already, and we were thinking of some of the people who they added. The big challenge we have that people from the youth academy actually come through to the first team. There's too much of a gap, but players like Castello Luqueba, for example, he might leave us because he's too much worth already anyway. And you see how he performs in the is it the under 21 Euros he's playing? 21. He's performing brilliantly, but he's the type of young player they brought in, and he gave us a lot of quality already. We may have more players like that, and that just would suggest or would confirm your theory that we have those players on a higher level. And maybe Ole Werner is able to work with them, in a better way and to develop them as well. The other part, which is a little bit concerning, is he sticks to a core group of people. Well, maybe for this next season where RB Leipzig is not on international duty, maybe that actually works quite well. And there is this cohesion that we didn't have last year. There's that word, your favorite word, Richard.
Yes.
And it might work for that year. The interesting thing is going to be, if he is successful, he gets us into Europe, maybe the Conference League or Europa League, should be the Champions League actually. How is he going to deal with the squad with all these different competitions? But that, I guess, is a cross we can bridge when we get to it. So that, for me, that was actually quite valid point. So maybe it does, but it doesn't support the long-term perspective. Not yet, and he has to prove that. It may suggest that in the short term, he's able to develop a young, more exciting team that we had last year that can get us into European football the year after. I don't know what you think, Richard.
Well, yeah, I think we had it at the start of this show, and if there not had been this, differences between him and the Werder Bremen front office, I think it could have been the long-term solution for Werder Bremen. So I was like midway through the last season when they had this, stinker weeks or stinker months, as you mentioned, Ben, like they had every season. And I was impressed how patient, just how much patience the front office showed with him. So and then finally he just make this turnaround again, and as Werder Bremen started winning again, and almost make it to the international competitions this season. But and I was really surprised that he left the club, and I think if his ambitions would match the club's ambitions, they could have been the Christian Streich or the Frank Schmidt type of coach that you have, 5 or plus years. I mean, he was with Werder Bremen 3.5 years, which is incredibly long. It's a huge amount of time in modern football those days. So if things works out for him and for the club, and he takes us to the top 6 at least, and you see a clear development and a clear idea, and you have the feeling, okay, it worked more often out than it not, and then just takes the development ladder step by step to the stars. Well, maybe it could be a long-term solution, because I don't think that this is a guy that's looks to the other leagues in Europe. Maybe his ambitions is okay, on one day I want to coach Bayern Munich, because I always slept in Bayern Munich betting when I was younger. But well, we will see.
A lot of them do.
Just with that in mind, and this thought came to me as you were mentioning just the long-term solution, Richard. Take a stroll down memory lane. One thing that has been a repetitious thing with Ole Werner, whether you respect the way he left the club or not, what he has done is walked out on 2 clubs after that club decided to change direction, or after that club decided to make wholesale changes. Okay, he is number 1 Team Ole. He plays for Team Ole, and some people would say, "Well, I respect that." Some people wouldn't. Draw your own conclusions. But in Kiel, he lost a number of his great the point getters for his team, and they were going to go through a rebuild, and he was not interested. After 7 games, he resigned. At Werder, the same thing was going to happen. They were going to be going to go through a rebuild because we are dedicated to training up young players and selling for a profit. And he's not interested. So the question is he a long-term solution for Leipzig? The question is, how long does Leipzig fit his vision of what he wants to do? Because once those two things are different, he's gone. And he's shown that at two different organizations. So in some ways, I would say it's the cart driving the horse. And it shouldn't be that way. The club should be, setting the directions, but he very much has his idea of what he wants to do, and if the club isn't in on it, he'll just move on.
That's interesting. And they only given him a 2 years contract. And the question to me now is, or for me is, this vision that he might have, does that change? Does that keep changing? Because now he's going to a club which has the means to play in the Champions League. So once they achieve that, what's the next type of vision that he has, and that may probably make him walk out?
He's a weird cat. So midway through the second half of the season, there was an interview. So again, Richard, talking about the big slump that we had, and you were surprised that the club held on to him. The club came out and was like public, we want to extend with Ole. We want to extend with Ole. And during that time, he gave an interview where he's like, you know what? If I want to, I might go and I want to be a surf instructor. I don't have to be here. I'll go do whatever the hell I want to do. Like, that was the interview he gave after the club was tanking, and then the club said, we want to extend with this guy. So again, just understanding the sharks you're swimming with in this situation, he might be a long-term solution for Leipzig. Again, so long as Leipzig is willing to follow whatever agenda he's got. Otherwise, he'll go start a surf school.
Well, that remembers me to Martin Schmidt, that Swiss guy that was the coach of Mainz like 10 years ago or something like that. And he had a similar interview because he came out of nothing. And then he has not a huge football background. Of course, he has some knowledge in it, so because otherwise he wouldn't become a Bundesliga coach. But he was like, okay, maybe I'm not interested in being a Bundesliga coach anymore and go back to the mountains of Switzerland and do whatever. It's like not a surfing coach, but like open a skiing school or something like that. That's interesting. Well, thank you.
Where is Martin Schmidt these days?
And maybe he's just skiing downhill, training the Jamaican bobsleigh team or something like that.
Jamaican bobsleigh team.
I thought he was still involved in Mainz. I thought he was still there.
And then he has to be re-involved, I think, because he was gone, as far as I remember.
Yeah. But this is an interesting point. Never thought of it, and that's going to make, like somebody in the US says, some material for great TV, if they clash. Klopp clashes, RB Leipzig, RB Red Bull clashes with Ole Werner. But I think the emphasis and the focus is on that first year, and with that objective to get us into Europe. And it must be Champions League. I think Europa League is even not enough at this point, but we may see what kind of squad we have, how they play, how they're developed, and how the season goes. But to the fans, it is a certain, in one way, we will miss European football. On the other hand, we're kind of glad that, there's not so many options that players and crucial players get injured. And we had so many players last year who didn't really show up, like Sava Schlager. He was injured the season before. Then he came back sort of November and got injured during the winter break in a test match. And he's been out ever since. And Benny Henrichs, who has been injured for more than half of the season, that last scene in the 5-1 defeat at Munich. So we had so many injuries and so many inconsistencies, and I think we're just longing for a group which is an exciting team, which gels together, and would probably forgive them if they fight and give everything and leave everything on the ground. We would forgive them if they don't make it into Europe, but as long as we can identify with them. Okay, that concludes, the gods of AI and their 5 points why we should be super excited. They have a little summary, which I would like to read to you. It says, in summary, Werner brings a combination of proven results, a compatible playing philosophy, a strong ability to develop players, and sound leadership qualities, all of which align well with RB Leipzig's ambitions. Completely opposite of what you said, it should say that this aligns well with Ole Werner's ambitions.
There you go.
That's a big takeaway for me today. Jesus. So, have we left out anything? Should we know about anything else that AI hasn't mentioned? Anything that comes to your mind?
I think honestly, yeah. There's plenty of things. Like I said, it's about perspective, right? There's my father would always say, beware the sound of one hand clapping, right? So if there's an it's when I can't see your hand clapping that I get nervous, Christian. Yeah, there it is.
You guys missing your pod, I can tell.
Yeah, it genuinely is. It's just one of those things where it's like, this is how we see the world and how we see the club, and how we interpret Ole Werner through that. And the biggest part of that is that the club has set out a vision and a goal, and what we watched happen throughout the year kind of ran counter to that, and that's why we were saying it was inevitable between the two. I'm not sure if there's any more inside baseball, airing dirty laundry that we've learned over the years. On Ole Werner.
I don't think so. Like, I actually rate the guy. He seems like he's a decent dude and he's a decent coach. Sure. It's just like time, like all relationships, things change over time. Our goals change, his goals change. It's kind of like, I don't know. Yeah, a marriage of sorts. And it's time to move on and find new loves because this ain't working anymore, So hopefully, I think Ben put it succinctly, saying that the club has to align with Ole Werner's vision, which isn't, I don't think it's that crazy a vision, but they also have to have a huge amount of faith in what he's capable of. And that'll be the biggest question. 2 years, I get why they only gave him 2 years, because they can always extend. And also, if they need to get rid of them, it's not a huge fucking paycheck they got to cut, Exactly. So
there are coaches out there that clubs will hire to follow their vision. Pep Guardiola, Jose Mourinho. Like, there are coaches that desire, or I guess have earned the ability to stamp themselves on a club. Is Ole Werner one of those? I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the interesting part. That's the unknown, and maybe it's an investment into and a promise into the future. And my takeaway from this is really much appreciate all your comments and taking part in this little experiment. And we're soon going to get to the proof in the pudding, see if we are more excited than before. But my key takeaway from this is what you mentioned last. That is the eye opener. That is the vision and the objectives of Ole Werner have to match the club. And in my mind, already there is a clash between the two of them, because I find Rasenballsport and the Red Bull whole organization, I find that to be bigger than Ole Werner. But maybe Ole Werner is going to develop into a much stronger coach. Maybe that's going to bring out qualities in him that we all haven't seen. And if he's provided with the right resources and tools, as long as RB Leipzig does that, because it seems to me that they're really trying to cut down cost and not invest into super expensive players, but younger players, like you mentioned before, as well, on a higher level and develop them.
And I don't think he necessarily needs like Real Madrid level transfers. I just think he needs more than what we can afford. We are pretty goddamn poor right now. You know what I mean? Like 5 million euros is a lot of money to us, a whole lot of money. Whereas for you guys, it would probably be what, like a reserve player or some shit like that. So I think he
as well. Scale down as well. Now they're talking about some players costing 20 million. That's too much. But bear in mind, for Openda we paid more than 40 million. Xavi Simons 50, and that was going up and up and up. And I kind of all started with Andre Silva, where we paid some ridiculous amount of money to Eintracht Frankfurt as well. And I think this is the first time we see that this development is scaled down again. But again, 5 million it sounds affordable to us at that moment in time. I must admit,
Whereas it would be it'd have to be somebody who's going to really it's going to be Jens Stay, basically.
So let's see. Let's see if that made all the difference, all your comments and the work of AI. But you expose AI to be not too helpful, I understand. Richard,
probably not the first or the last.
Richard, I'm going to start with myself, maybe to make it easier. I mean, I did take a lot of hope out of it in the sense of that he has a plan, he has a tactical plan, that Ole Werner is able to tell and to transmit his plan to players. I do believe that he is able to develop players, and he's not going to have any choice at Leipzig. He's going to have to deal with younger players anyway. So it might be a little bit of a different situation than in Bremen. What does worry me, though, is that last bit you talked about. You know, is he, as long as the club fits his ambition and his objectives, he's going to stay. If not, he's going to, even in the middle of the season, just bugger off and leave everybody else in the lurch. I don't like that at all. So I started with a 3. When you were talking, and we were talking about a couple of things, I was at a 6, but now I'm back to a 5. But you guys have helped me, so I'm a little bit more positive. What about you, Richard?
Well, yeah. First of all, I would like to thank you, Ben, and thank you, Christian. Thank you for your time. And you know, what especially Ben, what you're talking about goes so much deeper than to 99% of all the football fans in Germany in general. And not talking about Bremen fans at all. It's about football fans in Germany. You know, when you talk with them about those particular things of their coaches or players or whatsoever, then, you know, you just usually only get answers from like, okay, you read the newspapers yesterday and did not really think about what you're trying to tell me. But what you tell us, and that, you know, back 1 hour and 20, it was really impressive. Really, really thank you for that. And especially that Team Ole part, I think about this a lot, and that will take a time until this sunk in completely, or will have sunk in completely. You know, I'm not quite sure if this is a good thing or this is a bad thing. Right now, I'm trying to see it a little bit neutral. As far as I, you know, recognize or reorganize this whole information in my brain from the last 80 minutes, I think I'm now at a 4. So slightly more optimistic than has been 2 hours ago. But I'm still open-minded. I could have developed into a little bit into like 6 or 7 as far as I find out for myself if this Team Ole thing is good or bad.
That's fair. I mean, we could have really dragged you guys down. Just know that. We're impressed with the fact that we were able to get you up. So
yeah. We when it comes to getting down on things, we don't fuck around while we're fucking around.
Oh, wait, man.
Sure.
Yeah, that's right. Captain Buzzkill on the bad vibes over here.
That's right.
Well, you need some distraction anyway from all the other stuff that's going on, and some orange baby shitting in your backyard as well. So yeah.
It's no escaping it. You guys just hear it. We're living it. Well, kind of.
Well,
slightly
you're directly
more
affected, but he's got it out for the EU as well, and
I know
it gets a bit boring. It does get a bit boring, and well, we will see where it all goes. But at least the internet's still working, and some of the
as of right
platforms
now
are still working. Yeah, you've been cutting out a lot. I don't know what happened to you. Maybe you haven't paid any tariffs on this.
Yeah, that's right. They're coming to get me.
Also from my side, really grateful for your time today, and thank you very much for taking part in this little experiment and also being back on our podcast. I must say, I miss that you guys continue your podcast, and maybe, you know, there's an off episode once in a while, or somebody else is going to invite you, so you're still going to feature. But I do understand that lives are really busy. Yes, Richard?
Well, I was just thinking, okay, if Horst Steffen is not the solution and Marco Rose should take over, then we could meet again, right?
Exactly. We can tell you all about Marco.
I'm just hoping Stefan works out. I really like So far, we're all pretty optimistic. I think even the people that were diehard Ole supporters are pretty excited about Stefan. I mean, we're also skeptical because it's a very different game from Bundesliga 2, 3, the Dritte Liga, and then like anything else that he's been in. But I don't know. I guess we'll see. You know, I'm willing to give him plenty of time just based on his work with kids alone.
Well, maybe it's a similar situation when Ole Werner joined you. You know, there's a lot of room for potential, and I would give him a lot of credit. I would see your next season quite positive.
Yeah, hopefully.
I actually think this next season we're going to be in a worse position than we were in the last season.
Oh, definitely. That's a given. I think that's a given.
I think it's going to be a tough one. But I think if Stefan is given the amount of time he needs, at least at a minimum, we've got a coach that has proven he can do the things that the club is talking about.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I'd like to see if that becomes a reality, then not this season, but the next few are going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
and they're putting their money where their mouth is, basically, because they've talked a lot of shit, but haven't backed it up, and now they're backing it up, supposedly.
Yeah. Plus, you have a derby to look forward to versus Hamburg.
Yeah. Scheiße Haas foul.
You heard it here first.
Goddamn right.
Don't ever say that around Christian. He just sees red when that happens.
Okay.
Hate him with a passion. Cannot wait.
Here we go. It's going to be interesting. But first, hopefully, we're going to have a relaxing summer. And once again, thank you very much for joining us and giving us all those insights. And I think we've got a lot more out of it than we thought. Also,
appreciate
some
the compliment there.
We certainly didn't think we'd be delivering any goods, so here we are.
Does that mean we set the bar very low? Shit.
I was gonna say, we thought this wasn't going to do much, and you guys actually provided us with stuff to think about. Thank you.
There's nothing else going on in our lives. No, really, really appreciate your time, and we would be delighted if you came back on our show. You know, there will be a day when we play Werder Bremen, and then we can compare.
We'll see which coach is on the sideline for either team. Huh?
Yeah, seriously.
Versus Ole Werner. Or Marco Rose is back. You never know.
Yeah.
Or Hasenhüttl. I don't know. Anyway. Richard, is there anything else you would like to add?
No. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Wonderful. Guys, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Really enjoyed it. And, well, this has been a bonus episode of Bulls and Red, and I think we're going to use that content a little bit for RBL Compact as well. And we got loads more out of Ben and Christian than we thought. We hope we would have. So this is interesting. We're going to let you know how everything goes on. We keep our fingers crossed for you guys that your next season is endurable, better than you think at this point. And hopefully our season's better as well. So much appreciated. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to everyone who was listening. And this has been Bulls and Red.
Auf geht's, Leipziger Jungs! Ole Werner is here. Ole Werner is here. Feel the groove, not step into the rhythm, keep it tight.